Paul came out of the bedroom wearing his Monarch Hotel receptionist's uniform, a midnight blue skirt suit worn over a powder blue silk blouse with a small red ribbon bow set under the collar. He wore light gray tights, black court shoes with a 3-inch heel, and his ears were decorated with 2 pairs of earrings, fancy silver danglers in the lower piercing and half-inch sapphire and zirconium clusters in the upper holes. His perfume was exquisite. His mother had helped put his long black hair up into a perfect French roll. For work, his makeup was deliberately understated and quite different from how he preferred it to look, but for males to wear too much makeup on duty was frowned upon in the reception area of the hotel in which he worked, even though its use in moderation was mandatory. Paul believed he had the balance just about right. He checked his appearance in the hall mirror, patted an imaginary stray hair back into place, and took the opportunity to admire his long, expensively manicured fingernails as he did so. He was very proud of his nails. They were his own, not acrylic, and on Saturday he had had them finished in a soft blue that exactly matched his uniform blouse. He had, however, declined the offer of free decals, a decision his mother said was stupid, as it would have done his promotion prospects no harm at all. The more feminine he looked, the better. While Paul could give her no argument on that score, he realized it was a mistake, but he had felt at the time they were a trifle ostentatious for a mere receptionist, even though he was the senior clerk. He wished now that he had had them done. He would next time, he resolved. Picking up the shoulder bag, he smiled at his reflection as he air-kissed his mother's cheek and made to leave the house. "You look absolutely lovely, my darling," she murmured softly, returning his embrace affectionately. Paul didn't really need to check his jewelry, a pretty watch, a Tiffany bracelet and 4 rings including a diamond solitaire worn on the 3rd finger of his left hand, but he did. Yes, he was engaged to be married, but for how much longer? He had grave doubts that he would ever get Lisa to name the date. She had been stalling now for several weeks. As he walked up the quiet cul-de-sac in which he lived, confidently smiling at neighbors and friends, he seriously doubted that life could get much better, except perhaps in the one way he didn't dare to even think about. He waited for his bus at the top of the road, got on when it arrived, and paid for his weekly ticket. He climbed to the raised deck where he found an empty seat and sat to enjoy his first cigarette of the day. As always, he used an ivory cigarette holder to minimize the damage to his lipstick. The journey into the city took about an hour. He looked at the passing cars and the people as they hurriedly moved along. He picked out a young couple who stood with their arms around each other, looking happy as they smiled at each other and kissed. They both wore skirts and high-heeled shoes, of course. Almost everybody did, and, from his seat on the bus, he couldn't be sure which one was the genetic female, but it didn't matter. Normally on his journey into work he thought of the future insofar as it affected his promotion prospects, but his thoughts today were very much in the past. He was 27, and it was 12 years last week that the feminist movement had first swept to power, winning all but a dozen seats throughout the country. Since then they had won 3 more presidential elections, the last 2 with an absolute majority, so their popularity was obvious. They had quickly assumed control of all the businesses and replaced all senior male staff with females. Apart from laborers, the only men who had been kept on were those who complied fully with the new dress code. All male clothing was banned outside the wearer's home. Paul's mother had been very active in her support of the feminist movement both before that momentous election victory and since. She had helped to formulate the new regulations and had raised her son to be eager to wear both dresses and cosmetics just as soon as the new laws were announced, to his father's disgust, of course. His father had lost his job in the 3rd week. His wife and son were furious as they both believed it would affect Paul's chances in the future. His dad was made to do all kinds of menial jobs around the house. He was abused verbally and physically by both his wife and son, but especially his daughter, and there was widespread relief when he eventually gave in to peer pressure and started to dress correctly. He surprised himself by quite enjoying the experience, but either way, it was better than his wife's constant nagging. Paul had been longing to start wearing skirts and dresses outside the house, and it wasn't long before he got his first and only job as a junior receptionist at the biggest hotel in the city. He rose through the ranks to supervisor and eventually to shift manager. As a Class II citizen, women and fully transgendered males were the only people in Class 1, his pay and perks were good, and all of the senior managers assured him that it wouldn't be long before he was promoted to reception manager. He was invariably beautifully dressed and was always being chatted up by affluent lady guests and members of management. His one and only complaint about the new order was that males were forbidden to wear any form of padding that simulated breasts. In fact, even the wearing of a bra was forbidden to them, and this applied whether he was socializing or working. It was the only obvious difference between the men and real women. He was only too well aware that if he could get just one more promotion, or if he could get Lisa to marry him, he would become a Class 1 citizen and enjoy all the benefits which that entailed. He didn't really care how it came about, just so long as it did. He'd give anything to have tits. Once more he looked at his engagement ring and thought of the beautiful Lisa who had given it to him. Last Friday she had taken him to a dinner dance to which he had worn a full-length silk gown and 5-inch heels. As she had led him round the floor, their dresses had swished noisily together. He had been close to paradise as she held him firmly to her magnificent breasts. But he didn't like her to keep on kissing him while they were dancing. One big snog in particular had really spoiled his makeup, causing him to run to the communal powder room as soon as the dance finished for emergency repairs. After the dance she had, of course, taken the most beautiful boy in the country to bed and had her way with him several times. Later, much later, as they lay together, Paul was contentedly sucking and licking her superb nipples when she mumbled how much she loved him. "But you don't love me enough to marry me, do you?" he had replied. Lisa closed her eyes and looked away from him. "Here we go again." "Of course, I love you, Paul," she replied. "You don't say it like you mean it, or like you used to," he pouted, pulling away from her grasp. Lisa put her arm round his shoulders and pulled him back down, but he resisted, and after a while she gave up. "What is it with you men always looking for commitment? We have got engaged, haven't we? We will get married one day, but I don't want to think about settling down yet. I just want good sex and some fun. That's what this was all about in the beginning, as I remember, but not now. Now you need to be constantly reassured that I love you." "Well, if I didn't love you then I wouldn't be here," she said, "would I?" That set Paul off. "What the hell does that mean? All you want is fun? Do you have someone else? Well, do you?" Paul screamed, getting out of the bed and turning his back on her. He realized then and there that this relationship was going nowhere. It was the type of relationship he could find anywhere. He remembered bitterly his last relationship, if he could even dignify what they had with that word. That had only lasted 3 months, and all that girl seemed interested in was having sex. He winced when he remembered the night he had to end it. He started to get dressed, garter belt, panties, slip and nylons, as Lisa watched him from the bed they had just shared. "Don't go, darling, please don't go," she said. He turned his head and looked into her eyes. "Do you love me?" he whispered. "How many more times? I have said I'm not ready to marry you, and you don't want us to just live together. We've only been together for a few months and it's way too early for that kind of commitment," she said, getting out of bed and walking over to where he stood by the dresser getting ready to redo his face. She put her hand on his shoulder and pulled him into her naked breasts, but he pulled away from her and turned to face her. She could see that he was crying. The tears were streaming down his face. "I can see now that you never wanted this relationship to go anywhere," he cried. "All you wanted was a toy that would let you get your needs fulfilled. Well, I'm not some overgrown doll that you can use then pack away till the next time you need a scratch. Yes, I do want a relationship that will lead somewhere. Yes, I do want to get married, and yes, I do want a family, but that's not what you want. I can see that now, so would you please let me go and leave me alone," he said. Paul watched as Lisa got dressed and made to leave the hotel room. "Paul, this isn't over until I say it is, do you understand? It's not over by a long chalk. As far as I am concerned, we are still engaged and I will see you at work on Monday. When the door closed behind her, he broke down in floods of tears and fell onto the bed. Well, today was Monday and he had to face her. It was more than his job was worth to simply walk out on the managing director's daughter. Even now those thoughts made him cry and a tear rolled down his perfectly made-up cheek as he sat there waiting for the doors of the bus to open. Almost before he realized it, he was walking along the pavement, habitually smiling at everybody, hips swaying gently but provocatively as he walked. For minutes later he had clocked in and was ready to relieve Peter, the desk clerk who had been on duty all night. But before he could actually take over, Paul was ordered to report to the managing director's office on the 12th floor. He hoped it was Lisa since he hadn't seen her since Friday. He would be more than happy to apologize, to kiss and make up, and he was in need of some good news to cheer him up. On the other hand, it could be her mother waiting to tear him apart, and that could make things very different. Although he was going upstairs ostensibly on business, force of habit made him grab his handbag from under the counter as he headed towards the lift, where he quickly rechecked his makeup. It was a rapid rise lift, and just a few seconds later it stopped at the 12th floor where he found Peggy Mitchell, the managing director's PA, waiting. Peggy carried a lot of authority in her own right, which she made obvious by her demeanor. Quickly but thoroughly she ran her experienced eye over Paul and smiled at him. "Good morning, Paul. You look particularly nice this morning. I love your nails." "Were you not told on Friday that you were required for interview this morning?" she inquired, almost tenderly. "No, Miss Mitchell, I was not," Paul truthfully replied, instantly relieved that the reason he'd been sent for had nothing to do with his breaking up with Lisa. "Fair enough, though I shall be checking on that. Follow me." She led the way into her office, waving an elegant hand vaguely in the direction of an easy chair. "How do you prefer to be addressed, as Paul, Ms. Paul, or Paula?" she smiled. "Well, Paula would be wonderful, though no one has ever called me that, except my mum in private and Lisa at special moments," he grinned, "so I guess I'd better stick with Paul." "Yes, perhaps that might be the proper course of action, but since you are being promoted to reception manageress on Wednesday and since just about everybody in that department already knows, I see no point in trying to keep it a secret, do you?" Paul's obvious delight was spread all over his face. He could hardly believe his ears. He just had to ask if it was some kind of joke. "No, Paula, it's no joke, honestly it's not." "Oh, Miss Mitchell, you called me Paula." "I certainly did, and you can start using my first name whenever you want. Now then, there are some things we have to attend to, and from what I have heard one of them will be a priority for you. You are now eligible to have breast augmentation surgery. I imagine you will be pleased about that. Am I right?" "Yes, of course you are. I rather think you knew that." "I surmised. Get yourself off home now and tell your mother the good news. I am sure she will be delighted even if your father isn't." Paula laughed. "Oh, Daddy will be all right about it. There was a time, several years ago, that he would have grumbled, told me I was stupid or something and tried to talk me out of it, but he has accepted the way things are now. In any case, if he did dare to grumble, Mummy would soon give him a smack and put him right." "When can it be done?" "You will need to ring the surgery to arrange things. If you do so now, it may be possible to get it done tomorrow." "That's fantastic. I thought I might have to wait ages, like until Wednesday." Peggy Mitchell chuckled. "It could still take a while. There is a new implant system in use now, very much quicker than before, but unlike the previous system, this is irreversible. Once it's done, it stays done." "That's fine by me. I cannot imagine ever wanting them removed." "I don't suppose for a minute that you can, but think twice before you have them made too big. They can't be made smaller either." Paul moved to leave the office. He suddenly asked if he might ask her a question. She agreed that he could. "Do you think my promotion will affect my relationship with Lisa?" We had a row on Friday. She doesn't want to get married and have a family, not yet anyway, and things are somewhat fragile between us. If I have them done the size I would like, will this affect our chances of a reconciliation? Well, it might, but if she really loves you then she'll come round, provided you don't go the whole hog and have SRS as well. No, I shan't do that, because I do want to get married and have a family. I see. Well, that's up to you of course, but take my advice and don't have them made bigger than Lisa's if you really do want to get back together and have a peaceful future. However, if she doesn't like them and you do break up, let me know. I am in the market for a beautiful spouse with luscious boobs. His mother was extremely pleased to hear the news, and there were major celebrations in the household that night. His father was less pleased but kept it well hidden from his spouse, who kept giving him looks in case he said anything he shouldn't. Paul was in a world of his own as he awaited his new breasts. His mother called in a few favors and had him bumped a bit further up the list at a local clinic. Now it would take place on Tuesday morning and he would be fine to start work on Wednesday. He was incredibly nervous as he waited his surgery. His mother held his hand and a young nurse called John reassured him as he was wheeled into the theater. The surgeon, Dr. Karen, gave a gentle smile as he watched her get ready, then the mask was slipped over his face and he gradually fell asleep. When he woke up a few hours later he focused and looked down the bed, but he couldn't see his feet because of the mounds that pushed up the sheet. He smiled and tried to touch them. Don't do that, a voice said. He turned to his left and saw John the nurse standing there. Please refrain from touching for the first 12 hours to let the process settle down. Now that you're awake I'll call your mother, she's been worried about you, he added with a warm smile. Then he turned and left the room. As his mother entered she was smiling. You look beautiful, darling, she said as she reached the bed and took his hand in hers. He was cleared to leave later that day and he went home. His father said nothing as he walked through the door. Go straight up to your bedroom and I'll be there in a couple of minutes, his mother instructed. He walked up the stairs and went into his bedroom. He walked through to the bathroom and carefully took off his blouse. His boobs were everything he had hoped they would be, two magnificent globes of pink skin covering C-cup pert breasts with round areoles and prominent nipples. Are you in here? His mother said from the bedroom. Yes. He turned and walked out of the room. He saw his mother standing in the room, carrying a couple of bags with designer names. For you. She handed them over. He took them and opened them up and found some beautiful lingerie. They'll tide you over till we can go shopping together. Thanks, Mom, he said, then he gave her a big hug as she embraced him in her arms. Wednesday morning couldn't come round quickly enough. He was awake long before his alarm clock went off. He got into the shower and stood there as the water ran over his body and especially his breasts. He watched as the droplets fell from the nipples. He couldn't help himself. He touched them. They were soft and sensual. He could feel a jolt of electricity pulse through his body as he caressed them. If that was how genetic women felt when they were touched, he wondered how on earth they stopped themselves from doing it all the time. He chose a powder blue satin bra and panties set. The bra cupped his breasts and held them up. There was a knock on the door. Enter. The door opened and his mother popped her head through. Just came to see how you were getting on with the bra. Ah, you've mastered it already. You are beautiful now, Paula. Thank you, I feel like Paula now. He got dressed in his uniform and his mother helped him with his hair and his makeup. Then he looked at himself in the mirror and he was amazed at his new look. The breasts lifted the blouse and jiggled delightfully when he moved. Walking down the street he could feel people staring at him, especially the neighbors, and this made him feel really good. He walked through the entrance of the hotel and clocked in. Wow, you look fantastic. Thanks, Scott, he said as he passed one of his juniors. Peter couldn't take his eyes off him as he walked over to the reception desk. Stop staring, Peter, I'm your boss now. Yes, sorry boss, this came for you yesterday, he said and handed over his new name tag, which read Paula Manageress. He put it on and smiled. Later, he was speaking on the phone when he saw someone standing in front of the desk. We'll have the suite ready for your arrival, no problem, he replied, finishing the call. Putting the phone down, he looked up and saw Lisa standing there. Wow, Paul, you look beautiful. Can we talk? I think we've said everything we need to say, don't you? He tried not to sound too angry. You were right, I was completely out of order last Friday. Please, can we talk? How about Friday night? I can book us a table at that little Italian place you like so much. What do you say? He thought about it for a while. Should he agree or tell her to get lost and throw that ring in her face? The trouble was that he really did love her. Yes, okay. I'll pick you up after work. Okay. Lisa turned and walked away. He watched her go, realizing that she was everything he had ever looked for in a woman. What was more, she was destined to take over as the managing director of the hotel from her mother. Friday came around quickly. He packed a little black dress into his bag so he could get changed before he went out with Lisa. The day went past in a flash as he waited for the date with Lisa. He clocked off and went into the bathroom and got changed. It was the first time he had put the dress on since he had his boobs. The dress was short and quite low cut. It showed off his breasts, and he found he needed to take off his bra as it didn't work with the halter neck straps of the dress. It clung to his frame like a second skin. He touched up his makeup and let down his hair. Then he put his clothes in the bag and walked out of the bathroom. He walked out of the back door where he found Lisa standing beside her Mazda MX-5. She gave him a wolf whistle as he crossed the car park towards her. You look fantastic, she said as she gave him a peck on the cheek. She opened the passenger door and he got in. The car cruised through the light evening traffic. She parked the car and they walked to the restaurant. The waiter seated them in a secluded area of the restaurant away from the prying eyes of the other customers. Well, what would you like? She asked. I'll have my usual. She turned to the waiter, 2 chef specials and a bottle of your best claret. The waiter turned and walked over to the kitchen. Well, Lisa, what do you want to talk about? Paula, I don't find it easy to say that I'm in the wrong, but in your case I have to say that I was wrong, very wrong. I have been doing a lot of thinking since last Friday night. I have to admit that I was out of order with the way I spoke to you, and I was disgusted with myself that I could have lost you so easily. I've made a big decision. I want us to get married as quickly as possible. Paula was stunned as he sat there. Was this a dream? He wanted to pinch himself in case this was a dream, but it wasn't. He smiled at her. She got up and moved round the table and they hugged. Are you regretting the boobs now? No, it means I can now wear that strapless dress I've always wanted to wear. They both smiled, then they kissed. It was the best kiss ever, and Paul knew he was getting the promotion he really wanted now.